Hey streamers, time for another cruise control video. I'm WhiskleCal, and today we are going to go over some basics of building a command and what you have to do to write a command. And we'll start with something simple. So first of all, we have up the Kruiz Control GitHub page again. We'll be referencing this, specifically we'll be referencing this documentation tab right here. So we'll go into that. So over here in our text editor, there's a bunch of files. This is the Kruiz Control folder you see over here on the left-hand side. So we're going to start with just using this triggers.txt file. As you can see, this is the command we tested last time when we were doing our setup. It's just a simple command that comes built into Kruiz Control so you can test it. Right here we have an on command, which is saying that this trigger is going to run based on a command. The B is who's allowed to run the command. You can have broadcaster, mod, VIP, subscriber, or everyone. Or I could change this so it's B and M, so broadcasters or mod could run this. So the 0 that we see here is to say how long do you have to wait between people running it. So the cooldown. If I set it to 10, if I ran it twice in a row, within 10 seconds of each other, only one time would it run. And then this command is very simple. It's just sending a message to the chat. That's what chat send means. It's sending something in the chat saying, success, it worked. That's all it is. So let's take a look at the documentation a little bit. So we have the chat tab down here. We're going to click on that and go down to everything. Here's where you saw what I was talking about. Oh, I forgot the founder level. So these are your permissions, who's allowed to send them. You can also specify a user. Say you don't want everyone to, but you want Joe Schmo to be able to run it. So you can just do you and the username to be able to allow that specific person to run it. So if you're having issues, take a look at the documentation. It's very helpful. It goes through and describes everything. As you can see here, here's a sample, just like what we saw. In fact, it is the example. So you have on command, and then you have the permissions, which is the E, B, whichever one of these you want to use. And then optional info, which I'm not completely sure what you would include in this for an optional info. I don't have an example for that. The cooldown, as I said, 0, maybe you only want it to be allowed to run every 10 seconds, 30 seconds, every minute, whatever it may be. And then what the actual command is, exclamation point example. So right here, the parameters, these are all of the available, this is all of the available data that comes with an on command. So you can call the user if they type something after the command. So say you want to do a shout out, you do an exclamation point shout out, and then the name of the person you're shouting out, that would be after, what's after it. And then if you want to message, this is the entire message, including the exclamation point example or shout out, whatever it may be. Data is going to provide you a more in-depth review of some of the data that's sent. It wouldn't be used in a common or simple way, so we won't be messing with that in this video at least. And then arg, and then I guess most people know that as a hashtag or number signed. So if you have a command with some type of argument and then another argument, you can have multiple arguments. That's what the pound sign is for. And you put arg1, arg2, arg3, and so on for however many args there are. Again, we won't be using this for any of our samples today, but I just, wanted to go over it a little bit. So we're just doing chat today. All of these other ones are quite similar, so you can look at these yourself and review what they are. Like I said, they're very similar to the previous ones. But again, you have the format and then an example for almost everything here. So some of the actions that you can use with command, these are chat related specific ones. You can send a text to it like we saw in the example, or you can whisper. These are both examples of things that you can do with the chat. So let's go back over to our text editor, and let's say we want to say it worked to the specific user who typed it. So we're going to do @ and then to use a variable, you use the squiggly brackets, and then we're going to do user. So I'm going to save that, and in the chat, if we type !example right now, it's not going to see our change. See, it still says the success, it worked, nothing more than that. So whenever you make a change to Kruiz Control, you have to go into your browser source, scroll down, and you see this refresh cache button right here. You need to click this. You need to refresh the cache of the browser source whenever a change is made. So I'm going to click that. You can see our WebSocket connection refreshed, and we'll click OK. Now, if I type the command again, it should work. There we go. Success, it worked @WiscoCal. So, we've made a change. We've used one of our parameters, one of the arguments that gets passed in. So, since making a change to Kruiz Control is very common, one of the first commands that we should make is a reset command. So what we're going to do is we're going to do on command. And again, we only want the broadcaster. I only want to allow myself to reset Kruiz Control. So it's going to be a B. And I don't need a cooldown on this. I can type it as often as I want. And I'll do !KC reset. So if we go back over the documentation, and we go back to the top, if we look through all of this right here, you'll see that there's a reset right here under miscellaneous actions. So let's click on that. And it's used to reload Kruiz Control and reading the most recent trigger information. So that's basically doing the clicking of the reset cache button. So we're just going to type reset. And then in order to just have visual confirmation that it was actually reset, we're just going to type in KC was reset. And then we'll save it. So now we'll go back into OBS and we're going to type, well, our reset command's not going to work yet, again, because we need to reset the cache for it to work. So we'll go back into our browser source, refresh the cache of the current page, and then if I run the command again, oh, I didn't even type the command correctly before. And there we go. Our new command is working. So let's say we want to create a shoutout command. So I'm going to type on command. And for this, I want to allow my mods or myself to run. So I'm going to do broadcaster B and moderator mod M. Again, I don't need a cooldown on that. And I'm going to do !SO. We're just going to do chat send. Please go check out after, because there should only be one value passed in here, at https:/twitch.tv/after. So we save it, and now over in OBS we can do our KC reset. So it should be reset, and SOKRUISER 8. And there we go. please go check out Kruizer8 at twitch.tv/Kruizer8. So it's a very simple version of a shoutout command. So if we want to get a little bit more in depth, we can use the API action. If we go back to our documentation and go to the top of the screen, you can see right here there's API info. So there's no triggers for the API info right now. It's just calling a GET, so you're trying to pull information from locations. So you see right here, API GET, and then the URL for where you're trying to get data from. So if we do API GET, and then I have a URL, and if we do after, so for the sake of an example, let's go here. And let's just pull this up in our browser. And we'll just pull myself up. And it's pulling the most recent game that I was playing, the game that my channel is currently listed in. I may not be streaming right now, but it's still listed to be in a game or category of some type. So if we're back in our editor, let's add the game information to this. Go check out the user at their channel. Looks like they were most recently in the, and then we're going to do API data, and that's getting the information that was sent back from our API call category. So let's save it. We'll go back to OBS and we'll reset. And then we'll shout out Kruizer again. So there you go. Please go check out Kruizer8 at twitch.tv/Kruizer8. Looks like they were most recently in the science and technology category. I believe one of his most recent streams was working on some cruise control stuff and a few other things for his stream. So now we've added a little bit more to our shoutout command, so it's not just a simple go follow them or go check them out. There's a little bit more to it, so you can know what game they were playing or what category they were in. One final thing that we'll kind of go over with this is there's a file here called file triggers. You can see in here it just says sample.txt. Well, that is referencing in this triggers folder, this sample.txt file. And here you see we have 2 more sample commands. So there's a couple uses for this triggers folder and the files that you find in it. One, I like to use it to kind of organize my commands a little bit better. But also when you have something in a file in the triggers folder, if 2 commands try to run at the same time, they will not run at the same time. They will run in successive order. So, for example, in OBS, if I type sample1 and then immediately type sample2, you can see right here there's a delay 10. That means it'll wait 10 seconds before it sends this chat send. So you will not be able to run them at the same time. So let's go back to OBS. If I do !sample1 and sample2, see, neither of them have run yet. And momentarily, sample1 should run. And immediately following that, sample2 ran. So they run successively. So, for example, if I run sample2, it doesn't wait for anything because there's no delay in it. The delay was in sample1. That one had to finish running before sample2 could run. So that's going to be it for this video. Like I said, it's just the very basics of creating a command in Kruiz Control. There's a lot more that you can do. Look through the documentations. You can find a lot of actions that are accessible and available to run when you create a command. You can change scenes with it. You can enable and disable sources. You can mute or change volume of one of your audio sources. You can turn on and off filters. You can create filters. There's a lot that you can do. We've only scratched the surface, if that. So look through the documentations, take a look. If you have specific things you'd like to see how to do, post them in the comments below. If you have questions or comments that you want to share, post them below. I'll happily take a look and see if there's something I can do to help. If you have issues with what you're working on, take a look at the documentation. Also, you can see here on the GitHub page, Kruiz has a support Discord. A lot of us are in there helping people out, doing what we can to make sure people can get their streams and commands up and running. So thank you and have a good one. See you next time.